Hi, everybody. Welcome to the TCCW Live. Selena here. We also have Rance Edwards, who is joining us, and of course, our member Dennis. We're so excited to get going with you guys and have a wonderful conversation. And let's see where this goes. None of us know. None of us know. It's wild. All right. So good day, good afternoon. Good lunchtime where I'm at. How about for you? Rance? You?
Well, yeah, for me, I'm in Oklahoma, so what is it? It's 11 o'clock for me. So good morning, but good afternoon to you.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, good evening from my side. It's 7 p.m. where I am.
Yeah, you're far away, far away.
Yep, far north.
So, Rance, I am going to start kind of with you and go, where and how did you end up in this carnivore world? Now, I know you might be, I'm not sure, I don't make assumptions whether you're animal-based, closer to carnivore, strict lion, hardcore. I don't know where you're sitting on that one, but just if you'll start off and give us kind of an intro, who you are, how you got here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to just completely stumble through all of this. Yeah,
It's all good.
so I guess how I got into carnivore. So I do fluctuate between kind of your more broad carnivore and lion. It really depends week to week. I kind of go by how I feel, but I got into this a little over 8 years ago because I had a long health battle that I didn't even realize was a battle. I just thought like this is how everybody feels. But I mean,
Right.
I think at my heaviest 260, and just for reference, I'm 175 now. But I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, depression. My mother was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I presented with all the same symptoms. I got to a point where I couldn't sleep for more than couldn't stay awake for more than 2 hours. I had irritable bowel syndrome, GERD. I mean, I could go down the list and probably name off 20 or 30 things. And this was like in my late teens and early 20s. But I remember my Hail Mary because nothing else was working. Like the doctor just told me, like, try a D3 supplement. And that was grossly underestimating what I was dealing with. But I found a video of Dr. Baker about
Yeah.
carnivore diet.
Oh wait, who's that again? Oh, I'm just kidding.
Who's that? Yeah.
Who's that?
I saw that video and just thought this is the craziest thing ever, but nothing else is working. So I'm just going to eat meat because the comment section was full of people that were doing it. I thought, well, there's got to be something to it. I'm trying to be open minded here because nothing conventional is working. But that's how I got into this space. And that's kind of what led me down the rabbit hole of getting into health coaching. And I'm kind of really super fast forwarding here, but now working as a health coach at Dr. Baker's clinic. So
Wow. That is exciting. I mean, you're on the cutting edge of the future of like medical help, like that's phenomenal. Oh, see, I'm in awe now. Who gets to be at the helm of the leading force to shift how the medical industry starts to handle patients who are really needing something more than what we've been delivered in the last 40 to 50 years. So awesome. So exciting. All right. So
Sorry, Rance. Is the clinic's name Rivero? Is that correct?
yes,
Rivera, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Dr. Baker has been promoting it. Yes, I am accustomed to it.
nice.
it still feels surreal that I'm here. I think it's the imposter syndrome that anybody that's helping people deals with, but it just feels like there's got to be
Absolutely.
somebody that should be here, not me. But I'm humbled and happy to be here.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I don't think there is any one of us, like how you said about the imposter syndrome, like there's any one of us who is genuinely in their heart to help people, that when they end up in a position that is such a place of authority is not the word, but such a place of influence for people's just well-being in general. I think we do kind of all go through that syndrome, um, because it's like we're like, "Gosh, are we really right here? Do I really know enough? Have I really researched this enough? Am I going on the right path?" Like, there's that whole psychological, questioning for ourselves to know that because we're affecting other people. And so I think that's shows a humbling aspect of who you are too, because I think, there are others who are like, "Yeah, I've got everything, I know everything," and I usually find they tend not to be the ones that are in it for the true reasons to be in it.
I hear you.
But so as far as you you stated how you were 260 something pounds to start off with. What what got you to that point in life?
That is the game winning question. So I got to go all the way back to very early in my childhood. So I'm half Filipino, and it is a culture of like if you're a stranger, it doesn't matter. Come in and eat if you're walking by the house. So
Right.
I actually got very sick when I was little. I want to say I was around 5 or 6, and I took a trip to the Philippines. And when I came back here, I was emaciated, and my
Wow.
grandparents overfed me. And I mean, I remember laying on the couch sick for a very long time, and everybody was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to make it. But they overfed me, and it was with Whole Foods because my grandparents were farmers. But that overfeeding, that putting on all that weight, kind of as a knee jerk reaction to me being emaciated, that bled over into the rest of my childhood, teens, and early 20s because I continue to pursue like that feeling of overstuffed and borderline sick after meals. I think it just turned me into a binge eater. And, for a long time, I didn't deal with any mental health issues as a kid. It was probably around, I want to say, sixth grade that I started feeling the impact of anxiety and depression. And that was, I think, in large part due to the processed foods that entered my diet. So it was a lot of home cooked when I was really young. But as I got older and my dad got busier, there was a lot of fast food, there was a lot of McDonald's. And that, I was already heavy at the time for a kid. I don't remember my exact weight, but I was definitely larger than any other kid that I was in school with at the time. And I just recall a lot of fast food because again my dad was busy. He was a single father, and that's not throwing any shade at my mom. She fought a long battle with cancer that drove her to essentially run away to be with other people who felt like home to her, other Filipinos. So she was kind of out of the picture, but not because of my dad or because of us. But it turned into me once I was on my own continuing to go to places like Brahms and McDonald's and Chick-fil-A just 24/7. And that became almost the only thing I ate. And so my mental health continued to decline. And it was really the mental health that pushed me to try something different as opposed to just being heavy because I felt like my energy was totally gone, but I also felt like I couldn't control my emotions in reaction to different situations I encountered that people around me were like totally fine. But me, I was more apt to cry, or I was more apt to just fly off the handles and throw a punch into something. And it was never something soft. So I've got a bone in my right hand that I've broken twice.
Wow.
That's kind of what got me being.
Wow. That's definitely something that like sits with you for a long time too and starts to really formulate, the psychosis in which you start to accept things as an adult because of that being such a young formulation of your life. That is, I have to say, like, a really hard aspect for a lot of people who are in their adulthood now and attempting to question what's going on because the ideologies that we were set with at such a young age, or the community and the communion and those aspects of growing up. I mean, food in our society it's a communion. I mean, it's how you invite people, it's how you welcome people, it's how you interact, it's how you show love, it's how, like, all these different things. What do you do when you meet somebody? You go on a date. What do you do when holidays? It's like, and then add in, the different experiences where it's like, okay, now we have trauma situations, and what do? You bring people food, you overfeed them, you try to comfort them, make them feel better. And it's really a hard psychosis to step across and break through as adults for many of us, for sure. I know it was for me, definitely. Dennis, what about you? Did you have any, like, experiences as a young child that really formulated some interesting, like, awarenesses for you as an adult that you were like, "Oh, wow, this is really not all that great of a a way to do things?"
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Actually, in when I was an adult already, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, but it's something that has been with me since I was a small kid, like since I can remember. As you mentioned, some emotional tantrums, like overreacting to certain situations where everybody around is kind of normal, but you are just bursting out with emotions. And well, my parents and just teachers, adults around, they were just saying, "Well, you are a kid, you're gonna grow out of it." But this is true partially, but sometimes this is not the whole thing. Sometimes there are some, well, underlying issues which are exacerbated by your environment. And the biggest thing for me in this environment is, well, how food affects my mood and emotions. Because when I cheat occasionally with some junk here and there, and it's like very small things, but I can totally feel how the noise starts within my emotions, in regards to that. So definitely, yes, I can relate.
So Dennis is originally from Russia, and what do you guys in your area where you grew up is there like the same? And I know this is probably going to sound like a very ignorant question, and forgive me, but is there a same, like, community experience about food where that's just how you socialize with people? I mean, I would
Yes,
assume that's kind
absolutely.
of like a worldwide thing, like, that's just how, just depending different culture-wise.
Yeah, yeah. It is a big thing culturally in Russia. And if you know a thing or two about Russian cuisine, we have
Ask me.
let's say all the meals are very fatty and very high carb. So people and there is no, at least it's becoming better, but I remember since I was a kid and previously before that, there is no sort of cultural discussion about, like, should we track things? Should we maybe keep something in mind? Should we maybe limit ourselves? No, people just eat all the time. If you go with your friends, you're going to a restaurant, or you invite them and you have this lavish table with all sorts of dishes, and everybody is just eating and enjoying themselves. And Russian cuisine is like, it's awesome, and that's why it's very dangerous also, because, well, people just eat normally as they're accustomed, as their parents cook for them and stuff like this, and then they become metabolically unwell later, for sure. And that's a growing problem in Russia, especially in more older people, for sure.
Wow, wow. I've never had Russian cuisine, so I'm, like, I completely, like, I have no awareness of what that even looks like, sadly. I hate to sound so uncultured at the moment, but It's not one that I grew up around. I grew up in Southern California, so I mean, a lot of Hispanic food. Even quite a bit of Thai food actually as well. Like those were pretty heavy staples where I grew up. But Russian food is not a common staple I find amongst the American cities very often. So now I'm like, okay, I have to research what that is, what all that entails, other than high fats and carbs. I mean, what brain doesn't want that, right?
Of course. Yeah. Please don't research it too much, because if you
It's
occasionally
like,
try it,
no.
then it's a slippery slope. Yeah, I guarantee that.
Oh, I don't know that I necessarily want to try it. I I
Sure.
always find it fascinating, like what different cultures practice, and what creates their general atmosphere. Like what is that experience like? And it's really dawning on me today how much I don't know a lot about Russian, like, cultural traditions and things that they do that way. So, that's what's on my list to learn, not necessarily go try all the food.
Sure thing, sure thing. Don't stress too much about it. Russian cuisine is also, it's sort of a collaboration of many different cuisines of different cultures which we were neighboring, or which Russia encompassed later in history. So it's very broad, and there is a lot of recipes to learn, but maybe not for us, unfortunately. I haven't eaten
Yeah.
like a proper Russian meal in a very, very long time, because, well, it's
Mm.
probably not gonna be very good for me.
Yeah, understood, understood. So, Rance, you brought up something before we started about, a scenario that happened recently near where you are living. Um, do you wanna touch base on that, and maybe we can go into some ideas that we all feel about that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely unraveling still, but from the information that we do have here, this past weekend, or right going into the weekend, there was a mother and her son. The son was 17, and they were seeking alternative cancer treatment, and they were also looking for a second opinion at the time. And the way I understand it, the way it's being reported, is that DHS, operating off of a tip, essentially kidnapped that 17-year-old, and they're speculating that it happened on a Friday so that it couldn't go to trial until Monday. And they essentially, through OU Children's Hospital, forced this 17-year-old into chemo treatment against his wishes and against the wishes of the mother. And that's ongoing, but they're trying to fight to
Wow.
get him out of there.
That is a tough situation. Um, as a mother and as somebody who had to fight for my own, sovereignty with medical issues, um, I cannot say that that just does not utterly piss me off.
Yep.
Like, that is so, so disturbing, because that not only takes away, the parental choice, but that's also taking away the autonomy of this 17-year-old. And I look at the fact I have an 18-year-old son, he just turned 18, and I go, "Okay, I understand that he's not completely wise yet in all things." But I also know that at 16, 17 years old, given all of the data that I could possibly give him one way or the other, and him choosing what he would prefer to go through or not, I couldn't take that choice away from him. And medically, to tell someone that they do not even have the own autonomy of their own body to make a medical decision for themselves is so infuriating. Like, when I first left my doctor's office after he gave me the whole spiel about everything and all the choices I had when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and I refused his treatment, He did something very similar to me. I just happened to be a grown adult. He called the social services and sent me in for a check for self-harm. And so I had to be analyzed for several months before they were going to release my case as, oh, there's no worries here. She's not intentionally trying to hurt herself, because I refused his medical recommendation. And let me make that very loud and clear for anybody who watches this. It's a recommendation. It is not a requirement. And that has been so diluted as a boundary line in the medical system that people have forgotten that they have rights over how they choose to handle their own medical situation. You do have rights. There obviously are things that are cautionary that you need to, pay attention to, but the fact that this child, who is almost an adult by law in the United States, has been taken from his home and forced into a medical treatment without parental consent as well is so disturbing. So disturbing. What do you think? I don't know if you have children, Rance. I'm going to assume you do or don't. I don't know. What do you think would be your reaction, or how do you think you would handle that if that was something that was happening in your own family story?
So that is something that I do think about a lot. I mean, I think about it even for myself and for my wife, but for my daughter especially, if something like this happened in any situation, I'm the kind of person to take a step back and take a breath, because nothing good or nothing effective or strategic is really done in uncontrolled chaos. And so I think that my biggest thing would really be accumulating the information. Information is the weapon to use in a war like this, because in a situation like this, I guarantee that family, well, I can't guarantee that because they were already seeking alternative treatment, but
Right.
they may not have the large tool set that I have currently procured just because of preparation for a scenario like this. And that is just having all the resources out there and the evidence to back it up too, because the research is out there. I think it's just not being displayed to as broad an audience as it should be. But
Yeah.
there are people like I'll say Professor Thomas Seyfried. He's already working with people dealing with brain tumors, glioblastoma, through ketogenic therapy and fasting. But you take it, I would venture to say, a step further. There's a naturopathic medical doctor, Nasha Winters, and she, if I'm not mistaken, she started the Metabolic Terrain Institute of Health, and I believe that's in Arizona, because they do have full, like naturopathic doctors out there have full authority and autonomy, like medical doctors in other states. But that whole institute approaches cancer from either I know I'm veering a little bit away from the question. I'm sorry.
No. There's no direction. We go wherever the voice takes us.
I guess I'm kind of thinking out loud at this point, because I'm
Yes.
putting myself in that situation. Like, okay, my daughter's been taken, but I
Right.
would immediately start just getting that data, because when it goes to trial, to have that data to present it. And I think that a lot of health coaches can understand what I'm about to say, but being able to present that information in a digestible way, because if you go in there talking like you're giving a lecture at like a high level metabolic health conference, it's going to kind of fall on deaf ears potentially. So, but presenting that digestible information, I think, in a way that people who are I don't know, like the alternative and holistic treatments are a little bit foreign to, because they've never heard it, or even worse, it's just been bashed by other people. Presenting that and laying the options on the table, presenting that there is such a thing as like the Metabolic Terrain Institute that does approach this through, whether it be ketogenic, or they do include carnivore nutrition therapy. They include all the other areas of lifestyle too, that I think even some of the metabolic approach to cancer voices in our space are forgetting, which is stress management, sunlight exposure, blue light discipline, and
Right.
movement. All of these things I think work in tandem, because I think, and this is just personally speaking, from what I've seen from the evidence that I have read through and accumulated, it seems to me that cancer is just such a multi-factor type of thing. It's not typically one thing unless it's like a massive exposure, like,
Right.
hey, I live next to
Yeah.
Chernobyl, but other than that,
Right. Exactly.
that wasn't an intentional reference because Dennis is here, but
No worries.
just
Just
I know it came out.
right.
But I guess I think our biggest tool here is education. And, I would venture to say that, in this case here, DHS and even OU Medical, maybe they are doing it out of good intentions, but ignorance.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the part that I have a frustration with, because I know that there are several people who mean well. Like, I have family members who are concerned as to how we are raising our 3-year-old, because they believe under the standard diet protocol of everything that they have been taught. They're part of the baby boomer era. And so everything that they've been taught is quite drastically different than the truth of reality when it comes to cholesterol, and when it comes to red meat, and when it comes to fats, and all these different aspects. And I mean, they genuinely believe that we are harming our son. And I go, okay, so this is something that I'm sure other people are dealing with, the fact that, like, they don't want to talk to people about the fact that they're animal based with their children or anything like that, for fear of retributions from a government agency like DHS, coming and basically taking over their home, or potentially questioning their fitness as a parent, and different aspects like that. And you want to go, when did nutrition become a detriment to people who are uneducated about the real value of nutrition versus a 10-minute excerpt in their, dietary need during a doctoral session of education? It's like it's microscopic, and it's not even based in any real data that is current, that is up to date on anything. It's not even a factor that they consider when they talk to you, but it's a factor where they can consider possibly the detriment of your family home because of choosing a nutrition lifestyle that's separate. But what's funny is I don't ever hear concepts or stories of people who raise their children vegan. And I don't have a whole, like, thing out for vegans in a sense. I grew up vegan, vegetarian, but you don't hear, you tell somebody that you have a vegan family, and nobody bats an eye. Nobody questions it. Nobody second guesses it. Nobody goes, "Oh my gosh, is that gonna be to the detriment of that child? What are they doing? Maybe they shouldn't be parents." Like, nobody does that. But you introduce the concept of, "Oh, well, I'm putting my family through a lifestyle that is ancestral or primal," or, we base all of our dietary needs on a high fat, high meat protocol. And now we don't know if you're fit to raise your children. I mean, this is the time shift that we are in society, I think, now, where it's that teeter-totter point of people don't know what to do with it. There's a lot of backlash in information that opposes this new movement of awareness. And I think I'm going on a rant, I'm sorry, but I think the misunderstanding in society is that this is something new. that this is something so foreign and we don't have any data about. And, my own husband questioned that with me today, not in a negative sense. He's always looking to make sure that he himself is making the right choice, which is the smartest thing anybody can do. Question everything all the time and make sure that you are not egotizing your opinions. Because once you put an ego behind your opinion, it's no longer an opinion and you're just pushing an agenda, right? So even he, came to this point about, well, it's so new. And I was like, it's not. It's not so new. It's just been forgotten. It's just been pushed off to the side. We also have been forced to live in, this peasant concept of nutrition. I don't know. I need to hand the floor over because I apparently could just go today.
No, by all means, please do.
It's that one subject with the kid being taken over his own medical sovereignty. It's just it's bothersome, and it's a questionable state that we're in when it comes to having choice over our own medical desires, for sure.
Well, if I could offer, because I know it's such a dark topic and it's kind of teetering, and people may wonder, like, what is going to happen to this kid? And
Right.
I do want to say, so my dad has always worked in the international business space. He does a lot of work in Africa. And because of that, he had a very close relationship with one of our state senators, Shane Jett. And I guess as a result of that, I got to know Shane Jett as a kid. And I really appreciated him. He was always a wonderful guy. I could tell that he was genuine anytime I was around him, trusting my gut, which I like to do. And he has really championed this kid. He's taken this situation. The first video he released was, I believe, on a Friday night when it happened, and he was recording in the dark in a parking lot, just talking to his audience. And he's been working with the family the entire time. He's been visiting with the mom that I'm aware of, and he's also, posted some pictures of being able to get in there with the kid. So the kid knows that he's not alone. So I did want to leave it that,
Yeah.
It's not total doom and gloom.
Right. Yeah. No. Agreed. I'm glad to hear that, one, he's not alone in that aspect too. As a mom, it's hard for me to just even think anything. Like, I've never spent a night away from my 3-year-old. So I'm like, I don't know. It took a long time for me to do that with my who's now 18 when he was young. And I couldn't imagine them being in a hospital of any kind without that reassurance of knowing that they could have me by their side at any second they called. That part's hard as a mom to just go, man, do we really think we have that kind of right as a government body to do this to a family when it's over this particular type of subject, like, it's not an abusive situation in the sense of the parents are not trying to physically, purposefully harm this young man. But that's the misunderstanding about who has the final say so over what is medically abusive or not. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Okay, maybe we should dive into a lighter subject.
I'm open to it anyway.
So on a regular day-to-day, let's get into something a little more fun. What is it that you typically eat on a day-to-day basis? Like, what is your staple routine, so to speak?
So I'll give you the two most common, I'll call them phases that I kind of shift between. So whenever I'm doing exactly what I want to do, it's a combination of chuck roast. And, it's just like the poor man's ribeye. Granted, the prices are a little bit higher on chuck because I think people are discovering it. But,
Right.
whether it be slow cooking it in like a crock pot or cutting it into steaks and then kind of doing that Anthony Jaffe method where you like salt them and put them on a rack,
Yeah.
in the refrigerator. That's kind of what I do. But I'll eat. I would say on my favorite days about 2.5 pounds of chuck. But that's my preferred phase. I'm going through a different phase right now, and it's really just to make sure. It's like the pressure test what I talk to people about, which is, not everybody can even afford chuck.
Right.
Sometimes it's the ground beef game. So I'm at a point right now where I'm having, approximately 3 pounds of ground beef in the form of patties. And I am somebody that I find can tolerate cheese as long as I don't use it as a side. I use it as a condiment. So
Right.
sometimes a little bit of flavor on top. But I'm also very mindful of how cheese can be that warm hug that doesn't let you go if you fall into that pit. So I
Yeah.
don't do it regularly, um, but that's like my day to day right now. Right now, it's really just patties.
Yeah. Yeah. I go through that. What about you, Dennis? What is your typical staple of routine?
Yeah, it's just everything that Rand said, repeated. Because now I have a chuck roast defrosting in my sink, and before I ate some beef patties. So, and that's mostly of what I eat day to day. And yeah, I eat chuck not because I'm sophisticated, but because I'm poor. So that's, one of the reasons. But it's they say it's a poor man's ribeye. They say it's a poor man's ribeye. Sometimes it's pork. I find myself very good with pork. I don't have any inflammation or nothing that I feel like negative out of it. Actually, in summer, I had 1 month, like one whole month, I did the experiment where I ate only pork chops. Like that was it. And I wanted to see like maybe if I do it for like prolonged period of time over several weeks, I'm gonna feel like a little bit shitty. But actually, it was pretty decent. It's not that, like when you eat beef, sometimes you have this like like you are uplifted, your body is like, yes, that's what I needed. With pork, it's like your body is like, well, okay, and nothing bad for sure. So yeah, mostly it's ground beef and chuck. Sometimes ribeye if I'm lucky.
Yeah. Nice.
What about
Nice.
you, Selena?
So me, I am pretty much a ground beef ribeye, and I do eat eggs. So, but I mostly eat egg yolks, not the whole egg white. So that's pretty much my go-to routine at the moment. Kind of just bounce between it. Sometimes I do the ground beef and patties. Sometimes I just brown it up and go. Um, but yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, I have to say it's the simplest lifestyle. It's not hard, it's not complicated. I have gained back hours of my day where I used to cook and prep 3 meals a day for me and my family, and hours of my day, because by the time everybody finished eating lunch, I might have had an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I was needing to start thinking about prepping dinner, and hopefully it wasn't too early, so nobody needed a snack before bed, and, it's like I don't think I realized when I decided to switch over to this lifestyle how much time I was gonna save. And decision fatigue has gone to a minimal over food.
100%.
Right?
It's
But
beautiful.
I have to agree, because that was something. I mean, I felt like a mad scientist creating, like, our weekly food, like, schedule. "Okay, this week we're gonna have" I don't know, whatever it would be. I would make, like, in the past, I would do, like, a zucchini Alfredo and, "Are we gonna do chicken? Are we gonna do shrimp? Are we gonna do blah, blah, blah?" So, it was like I would have this whole, like, list wrote out. And grocery shopping now, oh, man. Breeze. Breeze, what do you want?
Yep, 95% of the shelves you just run past by, grab your
Exactly.
meat and then out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can totally relate about the time saving. When we started to live with my now wife together, it was about 3 years ago, and I wasn't on carnivore back then because I was on and off since 2020, and she's a great cook,
Yes.
and she was cooking so many meals, and we were cooking together, and it was a lot of like, it was fun. It's a great family activity, but a lot of time went into it, especially when you have to travel to office and take the food to the office and prepare it in advance, and it's just a big chunk of your evening. And now she's also carnivore with me, so that's great. We spend like 40 minutes tops, like on preparing a
Right?
dish, and she's also happy about it, but she says like, dang, I wish I know so many recipes and now I'm starting to slowly forget them. Yeah, so maybe that's a little drawback, but it's a good trade-off.
My family kind of, I think, is disappointed. Not my home family, but my extended family is disappointed because I was the one who cooked in the family all the time for all the events and any holiday, or if somebody even had a holiday and or like an event or something that I wasn't even going to, they would have me cook something for them to take. And now I'm just like, sorry, I am not promoting that BS for you guys. like I can't do it. I can't do it. In our community chat, I think it was yesterday, one of our members was talking about how, they loved having a coffee shop and a bakery, and now that they're carnivore, like they don't know that they could do that, because how can you serve all this stuff to people knowing what it is? And I was thinking about that too, and I'm like, yeah, it's hard to, it's like you don't want to be the one jerk in the family that's like, you know, bah humbug to all of the family stuff, but in the same shot, it's hard to feed everybody all that stuff that it's like you don't even want to put in your mouth now.
Oh, yeah. I hear that. I mean, I that makes me think of Dr. Jodi Nishida. She the keto prescription. She's out in Hawaii and she started Rise Cafe, and it's like a coffee and pastry place that's all keto. It's like, I wonder.
What?
Oh yeah, I plan to fly out there.
Where are we going? Like, what?
Uh,
Do you hear that, Ron? Somewhere this exists. We can do it. I mean, I'm not gonna run a shop with you, but you could do it. I'll show up and support you.
oh, let's do it. I will drive out there or fly out wherever it is.
Right? Right? Okay, so over here on the Instagram side, we have a question. Can we talk about how hard it is to get the rest of your family on the same page? I'm like you, Selena. I have to cook 2 meals at dinner because my husband will not budge off his American standard diet. Yeah. So how
That's a
how
rough
have
one.
how have you guys managed that one?
Yeah. Friends, do you want to start or can I chime in?
Well, I kind of have. That's a lot to unpack, honestly. In that situation, it's because
Okay.
I don't know. I see
We're
it. I
we're unpacking a lot today.
well, I mean, I'm hesitant to go first because it's like, well, I could talk forever about it. So I'll rein myself in if I do, but it's just like, I don't know. I will say clinical practice is a whole different beast because you don't get to choose who you work with. You don't have like a specialty. And that's something I see so much is even when there's medical conditions at play and there's a carnivore friendly physician that's over you, like we're paired coach and physician over patients, the family, that's a huge thing because we look at support system and feeling isolated and stress. Excuse me. And it's often that there's an unsupportive family member. I know sometimes people are neutral and maybe it's not so much as unsupportive, but they just don't want to give up their lifestyle. And I find oftentimes it's because they don't, two things. They haven't heard enough that they feel like they need to change. And the other thing is that just their self-health efficacy is too low. They don't
Yeah.
understand the mechanisms. They don't understand the why. They go off of what they've been delivered in the news. And I think that's something so hard to break away from because we've got more and more generations just being born into that. And it's kind of hard to, unless the parents have fostered an environment where you're taught to think about things critically and not just to accept what's delivered to you through, for example, media outlets. Even people you trust. If somebody I trust tells me something, I want to dig into it and learn. I want to know the why. I want to be a true believer of it if that's the truth. And but going back to the question, bringing people over, the way that I address it, which I guess it's up to each coach or each person who's navigating this if they've decided to work with a coach, is just I offer people I'm working with, like if your family is against this or they have concerns about it, bring them onto a call. Let's talk about it together. Let's address their concerns point by point. Let's educate, wherever they're open to it and where time allows. And I know not everybody has that luxury, but it's definitely one of the biggest, most powerful things that I've done to help bring people that I'm not even directly coaching over to carnivore or keto.
Nice. Nice. I think that's an awesome possibility to be able to work with for that. So what about you, Dennis? How have you managed and navigated the situation of um, you and your wife or any other family members or relations with carnivore or
Yeah, so with my wife, it was actually pretty simple. She has a little bit of yo-yo dieting past, and you should understand that most of it usually people go in there into social media to some not very good pages, let's say, where they promote like, oh, you eat like a grapefruit and half an egg a day, like for some
yeah,
reason, like those two, or you drink 1 liter of kefir and that's what things like this. But so she's had some experience with that, and well, of course, it wasn't optimal, absolutely. And she learned to be cautious about what she eats and how it might affect her. And she got a little bit educated herself. And then when we moved together and we started having these discussions, and I was talking to her like, well, maybe you should exclude grains because they are not so good for you. She started eating more salad and maybe leaner meats, like sort of like a keto-ish diet. That's what she gravitated towards. And then we, I was 1 month back into the strict carnivore, and I refreshed all my information, and we had more discussions. And then I had a sales pitch for her. Well, you might have better hair and you might have better skin. Like, I'm not pushing it towards you, but maybe you could give it like 1 month and see where it goes and things like this. And she trusts me. She thinks that I'm smart for some reason. So she listened to me back then, and now she hasn't been off because it's been working great for her. I was telling previously when we talked last time that she has had a virus, and after that, during the epidemic, and after that a little bit of her hair started falling out, which is well, very devastating. And she has had this problem when she couldn't grow it for like several years after that, like nothing helped.
yeah,
And hair was one of the points that I mentioned. And after a few months on carnivore, she came to me and she was like, look, I have this baby hair growing again. Like, that's so awesome. And it's really encouraging when you see people that actually like listen to you, and then
mm,
they try it for themselves and they see like physical results. Like, it's very great. But I'm not so lucky, for example, with my mother in this regard, because I've also coached her a little bit. She is a lady that she likes to go into the coaching groups. Like, there is a group of people and they have a chat and there is a main coach and she's sending information every day, and it's all good. I like the effort and I appreciate it. But well, the information that they give is like not very good, as we all understand. And with her, it's like she will lose a little bit of water. She stops maybe drinking wine occasionally, and she cleans up her diets, but it doesn't really help. And when we actually did a like several months carnivore with her, I was coaching her along the way. She actually experienced very great results. She slimmed up a little bit, and also she started feeling a little bit better. And what's important that she was on blood pressure medication that she had to reduce and then cut completely because, well, as we know, the
Right.
regular lifestyle and diet is contributing to a little bit higher blood pressure often with people. But it was all good, and I appreciated that she tried this with me. But we went on a holiday trip together, and it's all-inclusive hotel. There is a kitchen, and they serve all sorts of stuff in there. And of course, she got a little bit loose over there. And afterwards, she confessed that, well, I don't want to be so strict all the time. Like she has her own lifestyle and she makes
Yeah.
her own choices, which I understand, but I judge her from the inside. I don't tell, but nah, just kidding. It's no, it's
Oh, you're great,
really
Dennis.
thank you. Thank you. It's nothing serious, but it's interesting for me that because she experienced all of these like positive effects and started feeling better, that she then decided to deviate from
Mm.
that. But maybe it's a work in progress, and maybe I'll chime in a little bit later and speak with her, and maybe we can try this again. But with all like anybody else around me, they're just, well, you're doing some internet diet, whatever.
Right.
It's gonna pass. It's gonna pass. Well, let's see. I guess only time will show.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I find with the older generation and specifically more the baby boomer age range, it's it seems to be my experience is that they usually are willing to try it for a short period of time. They'll feel really good for a little while, but they tend to fall back more often than I would say somebody who is starting in their 30s or their 20s. When they decide to transition over and try it, more often I find they tend to stay the course versus somebody who's in their late 50s into their 60s. Um, and I don't know why that is. My hypothesis is the neural pathways in the brain to addiction towards the sugar and the carbs are so ingrained in comparison because of the time. Now, mind you, this is not a study. Nobody has done this. This is just my hypothesis, a theory. I'm just claiming. So, anybody watching, I'm not stating that this is fact and, stamped in stone. I'm just making a theory. Kind of like habits, you do a habit for so long and your brain actually creates a neural pathway to where it's no longer just like an intermittent transmission. It's now a full pathway that flows constantly once you create that in the brain. That's my theory. Like there's such an addictive pathway to go towards those patterns that I think it's harder to transition them off and stay off. Because this isn't the first time I've heard that even though they feel great and they feel amazing and they've had these wonderful results and they tend to teeter back. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so in my household, my husband and I made a decision together. Now, I was keto animal based for years before he was. And if I made a keto dinner, he would eat it. but he would always, he would have rice on the side or, something else in conjunction that wasn't just strictly keto or strictly animal based. And when I had decided to go carnivore, I was still like, I had already done about 2 months of research of, is this something safe for me to even consider? And then he started having some skin concerns, and I was like, one of the things that they say that could really help this is a carnivore diet, and maybe this can be, beneficial. Because my husband was one of the ones that like, well, I'm healthy. There's nothing wrong with me. And like the whole, I've not had any major cancer story. I've not had any major weight story. Like he never had an issue, right? Until this whole skin thing, which was still minor enough that it wasn't like need to go see a doctor quite yet, but maybe I should, but it's not that bad, right? So finally I convinced him. I said, let's just do 90 days. If we get to the end of 90 days and we don't feel this is for us, well then we're done. We tried it. We put it all in. We went full force. Of course, by the time we got to 60 days, we both were like, I don't think we're stopping. Like, I don't think we're hopping off this train. So I got fortunate with that in my own household. The challenge, though, is I did have already a teenage son who had already had a fairly standard, lifestyle. I didn't keep a lot of things in the house even when he was little. Like, we didn't have cereal and we didn't have, you know, chips every day. Like, I would let him get some from time to time, but it wasn't like we kept that stuff in the house. We had to specifically go and drive to get anything like that. And it was a rare thing. I worked really early mornings. Usually by 4 o'clock, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not going anywhere. So, so he didn't necessarily have that childhood where he had full access 100% of the time. We didn't really have all that crap in the house, but it was still a fairly standard diet. There was still bread, there was still pastas and rice, and he had oatmeal. And I look back at that now and I'm like, oh man, the things in hindsight, right? Like, but you do the best you can. And now I have a 3-year-old who is pretty much, he's more carnivore than he's animal based. So, and I mean, he's thriving, smart. He hits all his markers. His last appointment, they're like, he's above average in everything, and not like weight and stuff like that, but just where he's at intellectually, where he's at as far as like, any of his iron work and all. Like, they're like, we don't have to suggest anything. He's apparently the first toddler that they have never had to suggest vitamin D supplements for. And I'm like, just saying, he gets to run out naked in the yard all the time. He's a happy baby.
Beautiful.
That's
Right?
awesome.
All right. So I think, though, the part that it comes into more challenge for a lot of people as well is when you start looking at your extended family, when you start having to experience some of these questions from your parents or your aunts and uncles, or your siblings, or just close friends who don't understand and can't fathom why you're choosing this lifestyle for your family. That's hard. And we're still at a breaking point in awareness for people publicly, to be aware of, hey, what is this? What is metabolically healthy for us? Like, questioning the reality of, oh my gosh, is this even food? Like, what are we eating? That part, oh, that gets me, guys. Like, the whole fact that we will get questioned about, well, I cannot believe you're eating that. And I'm like, but it's real food. Like it grew that way. It's real. It's real. But the same people will be eating Pringles and Quest bars and, and like that's not even real food, guys. Like if it has a shelf life that's longer than a few weeks and it's not because it was canned, the likelihood of it being something that is, real food is going to be somewhat questionable. Even if you're choosing to eat vegetables and plants and all of that stuff, it's like that's such a small portion of people's diets, even in itself. So I don't know. Apparently, this is Selena goes on a rant day.
No, it's all good.
No, it's all good.
You got my gears turning. Like, your theory. I kind of wanted to build upon that because
Yeah.
So my dad is 83, so he had me very late. But he it's been a long project working with him to get him to where he is now. He knew about all this since I started Carnivore. I will admit, when I very first started, I was much more brash and didn't know how to properly approach these situations. I was even a bit of a dictator in my home, and family's great now. I've done my apologizing, and we all understand now. Like, I was just, this solved all my problems at the time. So then I just tried to be like a benevolent dictator, and it didn't work out. But with my dad, no, it's and I will say, I mean, the best thing I ever did was get into coaching because, I will say there are so many amazing coaches out there that I know who what I would call the village expert. They didn't need to get a coaching certification. They didn't need to go get board certified, and they are still phenomenal coaches who I look to as mentors. And just learning about how to talk to people, improving my, I guess, EQ, like my emotional intelligence, and putting myself in other people's shoes, that dramatically helped me communicate this message to people in a way that wasn't so brash and where they don't, immediately shut the door like, okay, stop knocking. But I will say it's like with my dad, I talked to him for a long time, and I did this for years, and he was very closed off to it and thought that, you at least need your leafy greens. And I just never acknowledged it. I just ignored it because I knew that's a conversation that's not going to go anywhere for either of us. But it took him getting his A1C to 12 for him to start thinking about, like, okay, maybe I need to do something about this. And I told him, well, I mean, these are the clients I've worked with. I worked with about, I want to say I hit 72 people before I got into what I say is clinical practice. And across all those people, if they wanted to get their A1C down, this did the job. And I kind of used that because, yes, do we want to do things the way that we want and just throw the truth right at people? I get that we have that urge, but we also kind of have to play their game because everybody's been born into this society of credentialism. And it's like, if you're not a doctor, then I don't want to listen. And I will admit, I don't regret anything. I love the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, what they're doing. There's a percentage of the reasoning behind getting that was being able to open more doors to people listening to what I have to say. And then, of course, the other portion is, it's potentially becoming an avenue to also bill insurance as health coaches in the future.
Right.
But it kind of opened my dad's eyes too. Once I got into clinical practice, he's like, okay, there's something to this. He did Carnivore for a while, got his A1C down to like 5.7 from 12, which is awesome. But there was a rebound. It's like, I will say I had a similar experience with Dennis here, and that you hadn't seen, is that he bounced back and started incorporating a bunch of carbs again and started saying to me, it's like, well, it's whole grain, it should be fine. It's like, no, you've just veered away from the concept. His A1C went back up, and it took him 2 strokes to get back on board. And his last stroke was earlier this year.
Wow.
First one, not bad, but they put him on a ton of meds. He was on like 3 blood pressure medications.
Yeah.
They put him on a statin, which was horrible. And then, a handful of others. And when I got him back to go carnivore, and he was still doing carnivore with this perspective of like, what can I get away with though? And he was hiding something. it was kind of driving me crazy. It's like, well, you say you trust me when we have these conversations, you acknowledge it. And then I come over, sometimes unexpected, and I find a bunch of Wonder Bread on top of the refrigerator. I'm thinking like, this is why you're not getting better. And that second stroke really did it for him, because he lost his vision in the bottom right quadrant of both eyes. And he also dealt with a lot of, I'm blanking on the word at the moment, but his speech was just all jumbled.
Yeah.
His messages out. And I remember I went with him to the ER because he had called me and wasn't making sense on the phone. And I immediately called 911 as well and gave him the situation, but he went to the hospital. I went with him. And I will say that if I hadn't accumulated all this experience working with physicians, then I don't think he'd be in as good a position as he is today, because it took understanding that language in that setting. But it was a fight. I even got sick for the first time in years because of the stress of that.
Right.
But am I dragging this out too?
Huh? No.
I didn't know if there was a time limit.
No. We have no time limits.
Oh, beautiful. I don't either. So, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, then this will interest you to know. So the ER staff was interesting. I mean, I think a lot of ER staff, they're a little bit more of a warm sell in some cases. And I say that because I didn't feel like I had to do as much legwork with them as I had to do with other people in the medical field to get them to understand the situation. But, up to his second stroke, I had been keeping detailed information on his blood pressure, his blood glucose, and a few other metrics like his weight. And I got to the ER just a couple minutes after he got in. And as soon as I got in there, I jumped in and started delivering this information to him. And that built that rapport that I think a lot of people skip that phase with medical professionals. You need to build up, that slow, like, okay, demonstrate your understanding a little bit so that they're actually going to listen to what you say and not think you're like just a loony family member.
Right.
Of course, it came out, it's like, well, I'm a health coach. I work at a clinic. So that helped too. But I got to have some conversations with him, fill in some details that he couldn't fill in. And this is not me tooting my own horn. Like, I didn't think this was going on, but when he got moved over to the ICU, the first person I came into contact with was the nurse that was going to be overseeing his care. And he said, "Oh, you're the son. Everybody in the ER said good things about you." And so I was kind of excited to talk to you. So I feel like it's all about that first impression, even in these situations with the medical staff, letting them know it's like, well, you're not a dogmatic, crazy person. You're here to help. And then once they receive that message, they're kind of open to like, okay, this person, we can have a little bit more open conversation. And that led me to finding out that this nurse in the ICU that was overseeing my dad's care, I'm not going to throw the name out there. I don't want this to blow back on anybody.
Right.
Found out that they were very keto friendly, and
Nice.
they had fallen off the wagon, but they were going to get back on and were inspired by my dad's situation. But, even with the cardiologist, talking to them, talking to the people that ended up doing some surgery on him, and just kind of explaining the situation, but also holding them accountable. One thing that demonstrating that you know what you're talking about is it also lights a little bit of a fire under them. Okay, this person is potentially dangerous because they can call me out if I come in corners. And there were situations where that happened. They weren't tapering off medications at the times that he should have been. He was having some symptoms post being in the rehabilitation hospital because lifestyle was dropping his blood pressure too low to be on 3 blood pressure medications.
Right.
And to walk in with him and say, you got him on lisinopril, you got him on metoprolol, you got him on another one. This is the record of his blood pressure readings. This is what he's experiencing. He's feeling lightheaded, low energy, having trouble waking up, getting out of bed, and then he's waking in the night. And that nudged him, and they did not fight me back. Like, okay, go ahead and discontinue this one. And next appointment, I brought up the same concerns. Go ahead and discontinue this one. Now post stroke, his LDL was at, I want to say 105, and we all know that is low, and they've even dropped it. It's being acknowledged here that 70 is the new target. That's insane to me. But at 105, is
so disturbing.
Oh, it just blows my mind. And I learned that even the people that are trying to push statins, these physicians, did not really know what they were talking about, because when he was in rehabilitation, I'd worked with him and I put together a document with some explanations for him to give the staff and what medications he wanted to elect to refuse. And this was a collaborative conversation. This was not me delivering medical care unlicensed. But he agreed after I broke it down and explained it to him, caught him up on the information. And so, he declined, he did decline a blood pressure medication. He declined a blood sugar lowering medication because it just wasn't needed. And they were already using insulin anyway in the hospital. So, they don't want to expose, I guess, less potential for negative side effects. But he also, with an information and education, declined the statin because I asked his doctor, well, he just had a stroke. He has had damage to his brain. Why would you want to prescribe him something that is going to inhibit HMG coenzyme A, which is going to prevent him from producing cholesterol in his brain, which is important for rebuilding the brain and the myelin sheath? And I just remember this doctor looking at me, and I even had it printed out in clear detail to give to people, just looking at me like, okay, I'm going to put it down. I'm going to put it in the charting that you've declined to this. Yeah, but there was no conversation there because I was getting vibes like, I think this must have been delivered as Chinese to him.
Right.
I don't know. I'm quick to want to say like nothing against him because I feel like I empathize and understand people too much to ever get mad at anybody to a fault. But I'm thinking, like, you hold these people's health in your hands, their brain recovery in their hands. Even if you didn't know this, at some point you had to question why this stuff wasn't working. Why did you not go and educate yourself further? But
that's the thing that I have to say is a hard realization to get people to open their eyes about their medical physicians. Not that they don't hold great value and need in many situations, they do. But they do not hold intense knowledge that is hyper-focused in any one subject. And usually by the time that they are practicing their medicine, they are no longer extenuating their knowledge beyond a certain level, but only by so much if it's required. Rarely are they going above and beyond to check research that is outside what is being hand-delivered by their funding organizations, whether it's the insurance, pharmaceutical, whatever is being delivered to their hospital, their office, that is helping to fund their paycheck. And not because they don't look outside of that, but they have to follow so many guidelines. So they only need to stay up to date as to what keeps them current to be able to continue to receive and prescribe. And I'm not, like you said, I'm not faulting them as bad people, but the reality is rarely do I find that when you come to these particular conversations like you did about your father's brain health and the ability to actually have the cholesterol function so that he can develop brain cognition for all of the places that have gotten damaged, to be able to at least revitalize some of that. And those things aren't questioned. They're not looked at. And I beg to say most of them don't even know it. And that part is where it's like, come on, guys, we do not medically practice an understanding of cholesterol for the overall well-being of the body, because it's more than just brain health. But that is a big one. It's one of the biggest ones. It is. And like you said, it's scary. Like, they hold these people's livelihood of existence in their hands. Why are you not digging deeper? I don't understand either. I don't. My father has had 2 strokes as well. And he's also type 2 diabetic, even to the point that he has lost all feeling in both of his feet. He's, severe. He refuses to give up certain things, and it's not that he doesn't know. He knows, but he just can't let himself. He's 70, and even the last time that he had his stroke and he was in the hospital, he was also having an issue processing potassium. And so his potassium levels were insane. They were out the roof. And I noticed that they were giving him potassium. And I'm like, wait a minute, guys. This is a deadly combination. Literally could be fatal. This man is having excessive high levels of potassium because he's not processing it. His body's not bringing it down. And you are giving him a potassium supplement. Is anybody reading his charts? Anybody? Is anybody actually looking at his blood work? Nobody. And until we had questioned, they were going to keep supplementing him potassium. And I'm like, the man's literally dying. So it's people have to be educated enough to be able to advocate for themselves or their family. And I think a lot of people aren't, because there has been so much faith over the last 40, 50 years that, well, the doctor knows best. And sadly, I mean, they don't. Not that they don't ever, not that they aren't helpful, not that there's not a place, but they don't know best. They see hundreds of people constantly. It's impossible for them to stay 100% abreast on every single possible diagnosis, issue, concern, imbalance that we as humans go through. We barely have a notion of understanding of what our bodies do. It's like we barely, we're teeter-tottering a brink of understanding. And yeah, so your dad's doing better, I hope. I hope
Oh yeah, he's on one blood pressure medication currently, but he's still like right around 120 over 70. So it's like that's probably going to come off soon. He lives on his own. He does eat total carnivore now. He's in a really great place. He does not have speech issues anymore. His vision is getting better.
Awesome.
He's actually able to drive again. So
That's amazing. I mean, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Some people have been commenting. One of them says, "This is why Rivero is so important."
Like, thank you.
Yes, because we need people who are able to kind of speak some broader awareness into what's going on for our bodies. So
I mean, can I brag?
Yeah, Rance, you are doing God's work.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Again, it's still surreal that I'm doing what I'm doing today. I kind of sit back and think like, is this real, or am I just like sleeping and it's a long dream? But I wanted to brag on our physicians, because like honestly, the coaches actually right now are getting all the love at Rivero, but the physicians, that we have people from all over different areas of medicine. I mean, it's MDs, DOs, nurse practitioners. And I've never met a more humble group of medical professionals. Like when I first came to Rivera, I was thinking like, oh, I'm just a lowly health coach. I'm going to listen to what the doc says. But it's been the total opposite. They are so collaborative. They want to know, what we think the care should look like, what our thoughts are on things. They ask us to help them understand things that maybe they weren't taught in their medical education. And I have referred physicians, coaches, just people alike to the Nutrition Network, because they have all these courses on different areas of health for, I think, a really low price. And this is training for clinicians, but it's open to anybody to go and take. And is it okay if I throw out there what it is?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Most of these courses are like, when you catch them on sale, they're $300. When you buy them in full, they're $400. I know that's not a small amount of money, but the amount of information as somebody who's taken a few of their courses that's in there, it is very comparable to some courses that cost like $5,000. And I'm kind of hoping that they don't recognize their value anytime soon, so lots more people can get in there and learn. But it's just, like I've referred some people from Rivero over there to learn more about things, because they even have a carnivore course, and they're going over there and actually doing it. So what a humble group of providers that just want to take care of people and recognize the gaps in their education. And so it's nice.
That is awesome. I mean, that is absolutely awesome. I know that is one of the places that I often, although I haven't gone myself, but I often will say, like to my mom or my dad, like, hey, you really should go take a look at this, because they could really help you out in ways that isn't understood in the mainstream systems right now. And I mean, people are getting there, but like, it's hard. They're far and few between in comparison. Like I can walk out to my county, and I live in a very small area of the world, and I can't count on my hands and toes how many different doctor's offices there are. So it's like, to have these doctors, like you said, who are so willing to go beyond just what they were taught and told, and to actually look into the information and the data and what is actually happening versus being told what should be happening. Like, okay, that's great. So we shouldn't have any cholesterol, and our cholesterol should be low, but this is not what is actually looking like when we do this to these people. Like, that's an amazing, amazing space, and so grateful that this has come into existence for sure. So I don't know that we have any more questions. I'm probably going to go ahead and look at closing us down for today, if you guys are good with that.
Sure.
Dennis, thank you so much for hopping in with us today. And Rance, absolute pleasure getting to talk to you. We haven't interacted a whole lot, but I can say, you offer such a great, immense amount of information for people, and a safe place for people to go and question and explore, and be able to find things that are beneficial for them. So thank you so much for hopping on, and we're going to close it down. So everybody, until next time.
Thank you.